Hello everyone and welcome back to QuicksaveTV. Today we're going to continue the series of Skyrim tutorials and talk about the most disbalanced of them all, the stealth, the sneak. We're going to go ahead and open the sneak in the Perk Tree, which should be right there. Yes, sneak, okay. Now, let's discuss the Perk Tree. We have two trees which I like to talk about as the right tree, an assassin tree, and the left tree as a ninja tree, okay? The difference between assassin and a ninja is that ninja is stealthy and assassin is a murderer, okay? Let's just continue talking about them in a little bit of detail. We have the first perk, stealth, which with each subsequent investment in it allows you to improve your stealth, making you harder to detect by 100% at the end. I wouldn't say it's necessarily the most useful skill in the game, but it will be certainly useful to sneak on creatures such as dragons and especially perceptive enemies. Now, let's talk about the left tree, the ninja tree. Second skill we have is called muffled movement. Noise from armor is reduced by 50%. You unlock it at 30 and by 50% it reduces the sound you emanate when you move around, which is emanated from your armor, right? It's very useful, but however later on it becomes less and less useful because you get skills which improve your silentness overall and make you absolutely undetectable when we talk about sound. Let's continue to the Lightfoot, which you unlock on 40. You won't trigger pressure plates. In all honesty, this one is a waste of a perk. It shouldn't be here because it's not very useful. It should be a deviation from muffled movement because it's not really hard to avoid pressure plates, and it's not worth it to invest a perk into the Lightfoot just not to press 1 to 500, even if it's 100 pressure plates. What would just happen if you would load the game and try to avoid the trap, or you would just see that, which happens most of the time. I think it's a waste of a perk, but you need to get it to move to the silent roll, which allows you sprinting while which allows you to roll, to perform a silent forward roll. Whenever you try to sprint when you're sneaking, you're gonna roll, and this roll allows you to cross gigantic distances without being detected. It requires 50, and it's an absolute disbalanced thing, especially in conjunction with silence, and it just turns you into a silent sonic hedgehog. I'm going to describe why. Silence, the next skill unlocked at 70, allows you to walk and run without being detected. It doesn't matter now how fast you move when you're sneaking, it won't influence your detection. Now only light will influence your detection, and you won't emanate any sound. So silence effectively replaces the muffled movement and becomes your let's say it's the most advanced position in ninja tree, because I don't consider Shadow Warrior particularly really useful. I mean, it's very strong and very useful obviously, but it's not necessary to be effective because of the assassin tree. Crouching stops from combat for a moment and forces distant opponents to search for the target. What happens is that the archers, for example, which fight with you, in general the enemies, they will start searching for you, and you can just sneak away from them or sneak up on them again and deal a critical hit. Now, the right tree, the assassin tree, is purely for backstabs, and it improves the overall sneaking attacks on the enemies. We start with backstab, which allows you to deal 6 times the damage with any one-handed weapons. Now you have to remember, one-handed weapons can be considered anything. It can be maces, axes and swords. It doesn't have to be only daggers. Then we move to deadly aim, which lets you deal 3 times the damage with a bow on the sneak attack instead of 2. It's such a gigantic increase, but you have to remember that with a bow it's much more easier to stay stealthy. Even after the first hit you can make a successful additional hit, which again will be sneaky, and which will deal additional increased damage because of the sneak effect. You have to keep it in mind because it's much easier to sneak on an enemy with a bow than with a blade. Now, the last one in the Assassin's Tree is Assassin's Blade. Sneak attacks with daggers now do a total of 15 times normal damage. It's an insane skill, and I think it should be nerfed, and I certainly will nerf it when I get my hands on the construction set. I in general wanted to work around on skills, but in current state, in the original vanilla game, Assassin's Blade is absolutely disbalanced because it allows you to deal 15 times the damage on the enemy. Don't forget this. The enemy detection doesn't work as good as an vanilla Oblivion. So after you deal one hit, you can successfully hit another time on the enemy, deal an additional 15 times the damage, and just killing anything in your way. Now that we discussed the tree, let's just talk about the sneak attack, the roll, and everything as we fight the enemies. The dagger I have at this point is ebony arrow, glass dagger, legendary. It does 42 damage. So if we deal 15 times the damage with this dagger, what's gonna happen is that effectively I'm gonna deal 240, let's say, damage on the enemy. That's just gigantic amount of damage, and it's just unbelievable. Now notice how I can roll around the battlefield without being noticed. Yeah, I also am stupid sometimes, so I'm just gonna run away, because since it's the video about sneak, I'm not gonna use anything but sneak and healing. I'm gonna run away as fast as I can, hide from the enemies. Also, you have to note that it's easier to roll around when you have a dagger, or in general any close combat weapon equipped. What's gonna happen, you can just hold down the sprint key, and what's gonna happen, you're gonna keep rolling around until you bump into something, right? And you don't have to press it again and again. It also makes the roll much faster and allows you to cross gigantic distances. So now let's just roll on the enemy. It's very important to note, don't roll into the enemy because you're gonna break your sneak. When you attack with a backstab, you don't have to hold the mouse button, you can just click it. But of course you deal more damage. You deal more damage when you hold down the mouse key, okay? It's important to know. Let's just run away now and hide again. Oh, we're seen. We're just gonna go ahead and hide somewhere. Now we're just gonna go ahead and kill this nuisance over there. Okay, we're done with him. Now we're just gonna avoid being seen, get sneaky again. Notice how in my case, because I'm being stupid, the sneak does not work as a skill on its own. It works as a support skill. It makes the encounter easier for me. It doesn't replace the encounters with sneak attacks. If you're careful enough, and if you're not recording videos while doing it, you can make very effective sneak attacks which will deal gigantic amount of damage, and you won't really need to engage in the close combat or any other kind of combat. Notice that the eye in the center when you hide has only two important positions. One of them is the position hidden, the other one is position seen, detected. The difference between these two is that hidden is everything. Even when they search for you, you remain hidden. Until you are seen, you stay hidden. So you don't need to worry about anything until they actually see you. Notice how I just deal with the enemy with one blow. I don't think it contributes to the difficulty of the game, or to balance, or to interest of playing the game, but that's how it works. It's very effective, very, very strong. It also activates this sneak cutthroat attack from time to time. It's very fun to do, let's say, but it's not balanced. That's my complaint with it. It's much stronger than many other trees, and it's very effective overall, and it's self-supportive. Once you reach certain point, once you reach 70, skill 70, and in ninja you will be able to select the silent movement, silent run and silent walk. You won't have to bother about anything because you're gonna have the roll also, and you don't really need anything else because you can just sneak on anything, sneak on any enemy, except for the dragons. They're probably impossible to sneak upon because it feels like it's very hard to do that. It's also important to note that some shouts work with Sneak Tree very well, such as Aura Whisper. Aura Whispers allow you to see where exactly the enemies are in order to predict where do you have to move, where do you have to strike in order not to get ambushed by the enemy. Very, very useful. Also, you should stay from obvious sources of light and try to attack the enemies when they are separated from each other. It's not always easy to do, but you can provoke them to start searching for you, to trap them somewhere else. Notice how the roll doesn't affect you being found or hidden, so you can just roll all over the place, nothing really gonna happen. Rolling is a very effective way to travel around, and it's very fast also. It's also very stealthy, don't forget about it. Once you get the roll, you're just gonna roll around, believe me. Also, from first person, it doesn't look awkward, and it doesn't actually look like a roll. It doesn't confuse you when you move around. It's very, very useful skill. It's almost the best skill in the sneaking tree. Okay, let's just go ahead and open the door. Okay, now it's gonna be a tricky situation. We're gonna go try ahead and get one of them. As I said, now he's trying to find me.
Is someone there?
He found me, okay. Didn't help much. The idea when sneaking is to be very, very, very aggressive. I'm gonna show it in some examples. Even when the enemy is trying to detect you, or is about to detect you, just go ahead, rush all the way towards him, and just kill him, right? Until he detected you, you are still hidden. Don't be ashamed to use all these tricks. And just move around. Use the roll. Roll is very effective. Until you have the roll, it's going to be quite difficult to sneak on the enemies because you probably will have to do something like this. But again, then you can do ambushing. The sneaking is in general increasing faster when you kill the enemies or hit them using the sneak attack, and you can do ambushes which will work something like this.
Is someone there?
Hide behind the column or a wall and wait for the enemy to approach you. Once the enemy approaches you, just approach just barely enough to make a hit and make this hit. Take this one hit at the enemy. It might be hard at first, but you're gonna get used to it. Because of the enemy not having enough time to detect you, you will be able to deal just one critical hit and you will be able to kill the enemy off or just deal this critical hit which will improve your sneaking. Slowly you will move towards the better sneaking and the more effective attacks. On this, we are going to conclude the video. Oh, actually, there's another thing I wanted to talk about. I'm just going to go talk about supportive trees. Very supportive of sneak is the one-handed tree. More specifically, the one-handed tree. More specifically, the armsman and hack and slash, I think. No, that's not the tree. The bladesman. Hack and slash, armsman will allow you to deal more damage overall with your daggers and swords. We care about only daggers for the assassin tree. With your swords, which will show because you will deal much harder and much more hard hitting the sneak attack, backstabs, which will help you to kill enemies even faster. Right now my dagger has 42 damage, right? It deals about 1200 sneak attack. If we would have armsman, we would have twice as much damage from the dagger, which means we would have 84 damage, which means we would have 2400 sneak attack. Jesus, it's so disbalanced. But anyway, that's the most effective way to do that. And then you can take bladesman, which will allow you to deal 30% of the time additional the chance of doing critical damage. Now, critical damage will do, let's say, 1.5 damage. I cannot really say what the specific number is, but it's gonna be higher, right? You're gonna improve your attack even harder. So every third of your backstabs will deal, instead of 2400, will deal 3600 damage. Now, if you just think about numbers, it's just freaking crazy, alright? I mean, I don't even have so many hit points. I have like 300, and there's 3600 damage. It's just unbelievably devastating and very effective. On this, we're going to conclude this video. I thank you very much for coming to QuicksaveTV. Thank you very much for listening and watching to my video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, go ahead, like, subscribe, and share with your friends. It was great having you here. I hope you come back for more videos about Skyrim and other great games. Have a great time, have a great day, and bye bye.